Okay, so we've done all our introductions already, and you are in the right webinar if you expected to see the 10 ways to grow church income in 2022. Now, I thought of my top 10 for you with Janet, and we've put them together in a very short and succinct way. Obviously, there's more exploring to do behind my 10 suggestions, and of course, some of them won't even be new to you. You'll already be doing them in church. But hopefully what you'll get from the next 45 minutes are a good handful of tips that you can take away and try. I must also preface the presentation with by saying there are no silver bullets to raising church income. It isn't an easy job. We totally understand how difficult churches have found, particularly the last 2 years, and the ongoing struggle to make ends meet. We completely identify with you and sympathise. So this is why we've put together this webinar. So hopefully you'll go away feeling a little bit more renewed, a little bit more energized and excited about ways you can raise the income. So we do come at it with some understanding, and we're with you. So my first tip, and I have tried to put them in order of what I think is important. You might disagree, but I wanted to talk to you first about discipleship. This is the journey of generosity, really. It's how we disciple our congregants to thinking, how much of my money do I give away, towards how much of God's money do I keep? And that journey isn't an easy one. We know our relationship with money is often a complex one, and one we don't fully understand ourselves. And so as we walk together in our journey of generosity as good disciples of Jesus, the church can support us, and we can do our bit in supporting others as well. Now, the stepping stones on the slides sort of show you where we may sit on that journey of generosity, and they weren't designed by me. The Survival Supermarket Support, Subscription and Sacrifice stepping stones on the journey were thought about a long time ago by stewardship officers that have gone before. And what we're aiming to do is we're aiming to encourage people to think very sacrificially about their giving, which is the first stone on that stepping stone path. Now, you're not alone in trying to disciple people on their own journey of generosity. There are a wealth of resources out there, probably too many to be useful, because you can bewilder yourself with the choice. But I've picked two for you here on this slide. The discipleship materials from the Church of England are very new, they're very fresh, they're very interesting and exciting, they're well worth a look. And for clergy, the Generosity Learning Hub, which is a brand new resource, providing information for sermons, services, and ministry on the topic. Now, I should say as well that each of the links that are underlined on the slides are live. So when I post the slides on our website, you'll be able to explore more from this presentation. So discipleship is my number one. My number two is the Generosity Week and generosity activities. Now, Janet and I talk a lot about Generosity Week and generous activities in church. We know, and we fully wholeheartedly believe, that generosity isn't something that we just do once a year. Generosity Week, yes, it might happen once a year, but it doesn't go and stand alone. It goes alongside lots and lots of other activities that you can embed into your church calendar. I just wanted to show you this film. It just outlines what Generosity Week is.
Generosity is at the heart of our faith. God gave the world his only Son because he loved it so much. The generosity we show is testament to a lived out faith and our generous God. Each day we can be a generous disciple, whether that's giving to those in need or helping a neighbour or family member. Generosity lives through these everyday acts of kindness that make a huge difference to people's lives. This harvest, we invite you to join us for Generosity Week. Together, we will celebrate the generosity that has helped us through these difficult times, reflect on God's generosity to us, and explore how we can grow generosity in our churches. Visit churchofengland.org/generosityweek to find out more and get involved.
So that's the Generosity Week. We ran our very first Diocesan Generosity Week last year in September, just around harvest time. It was a success. Dozens of churches joined in, and we made quite a lot of noise about Generosity Week. It's basically a stewardship week, if you like, in a box. There's services, activities, podcasts, reflections for anybody to engage in for the week. If they want to do it alone at home, absolutely fine. Or if they want to join in as a whole church, it also works as well. So this year, 2022, our Generosity Week will start on the 25th of September and it will run to the 2nd of October. So everything that the diocese will produce on the communication side of things will be Generosity Week focused, and there'll be lots of things going on that we'll publicise on our website. It's not to say that you can't run Generosity Week at any other time either. The resources are there for you to take and use whenever you want. They're not even dated, so you can have 2 Sunday services and all the materials in between for you to use whenever you wish. Now, the Generosity Toolkit sort of sits alongside the Generosity Week because it's the themes in the toolkit are very similar. By working through the cards in the toolkit, you'll look in depth at what generosity is and consider what you're already doing well and where you could improve and grow. It's a toolkit for PCCs to start thinking about leading a generous church. And what you'll get from that toolkit is a vision of how God is calling you to be a generous church and the steps you need to take to get there. So it's a leadership tool for you to lead a generous church, to lead the generous culture and to implement generous ideas and activities into your church calendar. So I can recommend both of those to you for your as a start, really, for this year. Oh, didn't want to play that again. There we go. My number 3, explaining need and impact. Now, if you've been to one of my giving reviews, you'll have heard me banging on about this quite a lot. Now, as churches, we're very modest, aren't we? We tend not to talk too much about the work we're doing. We do God's work very quietly and unassumedly. But actually, telling the stories of what we do is really important in attracting support. Now, I've just put 3 pictures here of activities that I've seen going on around the diocese in this last year. One of St. George's, who support the homeless, 2 visitors from overseas who are hosted by a church in the Dales, and then this church near Bradford who supplied cream teas to everybody who was isolated during the lockdown. Now, what they did with these stories was tell them. They told people about the good work they were doing in their communities by posting these pictures on social media and on their website. So explaining the impact of your work is telling everybody what it is you're doing. And you can think of it as the stories other people would tell about the work and how it's affected them. So for example, take the story of the 2 ladies in the centre picture. What a great experience they had. Capture that story and write it. The same with the chap in the top left, you know, a chap who's homeless has been given hope. The story is very powerful in attracting support. And as with the cream teas, it actually, the story was very well told, and everything that they provided in the cream teas, food-wise, was provided free of charge by local businesses. So it does have a knock-on effect, and it encourages generosity from the communities around the church. And I suggest if you've got a story to tell, tell it far and wide. Report it on all your communication channels throughout the year. Don't just rely on it one week of the year during Generosity Week. Tell stories whenever something lovely happens, post it up there and shout about it. Here's an example of some shouting going on. Some clips that I just took from social media of work going on in churches around the diocese. A lovely children's shot. A children's shot is always a very powerful shot. These children participating in messy church. And flower arranging, of course, always beautiful, very photogenic. And then yarn bombing around halls. And so we've covered impact, but what about need? Okay, need comes in two strands. Talking about how the church needs support can be really powerful. We don't, we kind of step back from suggesting that we really do need support, and we don't push it too hard. But actually, when we look at the finances, we realise actually we need to be a bit more vocal about it. And Dr. Sam Wells, I think, has articulated it perfectly in his quote at the top of this slide. It just emphasises that the church needs support, and people's generosity is hugely valuable in making sure everything that the church needs to do gets done. And those words are freely available for you to use wherever you wish. But also the second strand is telling everybody how the church is there when they need it as well. So yes, you need their support, but actually the church is there for whenever people need it. During life events is a typical example. And how is need demonstrated in practical terms? Well, here's one example. Probably you've seen something like this before. It's a leaflet created for a stewardship programme for All Saints in Bingley. They're freely downloadable and editable from the Church of England website and from Giving in Grace, which is a great stewardship resource. It explains the need, it explains the impact of work. You can see all of that on that first slide there. Why give? A welcoming church, need and impact clearly articulated, very short and succinctly with visual images. And there's the inside. Why do we need your support? Well, this is our challenge. This is how much it costs us to keep everything running. And actually the list on the left-hand side, how impressive is that? Do you ever bring that sort of list to people's attention in your community? Exactly what it is you're doing for everybody and why you need people's support. So that's one example of need and impact shown in communications. It doesn't always have to be in a leaflet for a stewardship programme. It can be on your website blog. It can be in a news item in your local newspaper or even in your parish insert. It could be on your notice board. Information like this could be put on a church near you. There are many, you've got different forums, you've got different ways of communicating your message. I suggest look at them and use them. Tell everybody the need and the impact. Always as well, I suggest if you're publicising anything like this, to end with a call to action. So if you can put a link where people can donate, or a web email address where people can contact for more information, or even if people want to give their time and their talents as part of the journey of generosity, then enable them to do that by putting a call to action and what they can do next to help. Number 4, saying thank you. Now, you might be surprised to hear that actually we're not very good at saying thank you in our churches. The Anglican Giving Survey revealed that we could do better. But what does saying thank you do? It explains the difference that gifts make and encourages greater generosity. There's nothing more, I suppose, lovely than being thanked for your generosity and somebody saying to you, actually, this is what we were able to spend your money on, and this is the difference it made to this community. Saying thank you regularly, you can't say thank you enough, whether it's on your website as a global thank you or a thank you card sent at Easter. I'm sure you can be very creative in your thank you messaging. And as well, in your thank you messaging, you can attribute generous and kind qualities to your giving community. What does that look like? Here's an example. How generous donation of time can make a difference. Greatly appreciated. Kind support. Can you see how we're attributing these lovely qualities to our generous givers, making them get that warm glow inside? Generous and thoughtful donations. And thanks to your support, we were able to, and our messy church had fabulous fun. What you're saying to the people who have given to your church is, you've enabled this to happen. You've enabled this joy to be created in your church. And remember also, people like to buy into a vision. So if your vision is as a church is to build the kingdom of God here on earth, tell people that you want to do that, and people will buy into that whether they have faith or none. People do want a better world. It's demonstrated all the time. Charities use this device very often. You just look at for example, the Salvation Army, who envisage a world without homelessness. Now, who wouldn't want that? And that encourages people to want to join in on that journey and to buy into that vision. I'll just cover this one and then we'll stop for questions. Get your policies in place. Now, you might have numerous policies and you might groan to think, oh no, Becky's going on about another one. But these ones should already be in place. But it's worth a second look if they're not quite as they should be. My first suggestion is to look at your legacy policy. Now, legacy gifts are a very valuable source of income to the Church of England. We don't do so well in receiving legacy gifts. We're not sure why, but one of the reasons might be that people who are considering leaving a bequest may not know where you're going to use the money, and how depressing to think that it could be used to, I don't know, to put a toilet in. So if you've got a legacy policy, it will enable you to articulate to anyone who's considering leaving a bequest where you will spend their money. And you can again use visionary language in the policy to encourage people to buy into the fact that you're trying to do God's work here on earth. And we've got legacy policy templates for you to look at and use and make your own if you wish. The second policy that I would suggest is that you get your reserves policy in good order. It's always good stewardship to ensure your reserves are used to gain maximum benefit for the whole parish in the pursuit of its mission. It's not very good keeping money in the bank when it can't do God's work. So I know so many of you have already raided your reserves in order to fulfill the financial obligations you have. So thank you for that, but it is very valuable, and it's part of good stewardship that we think about reserves as working hard for us. And we've got more links on that page for you to follow up. Okay, I'm going to pause there and ask if there are any questions. Any questions?
Hi, Becky. There aren't any questions in the chat function at the moment. So I don't know if anybody wants to type some in.
Don't worry, we can move on.
Yeah, there is a question from Helen. Thank you, Helen. She's saying, can we get a copy of this?
Of course. So the slides will be available on our website, and we will also put the recording on the website too. But because our website can be a little bit like a labyrinth, I will email everybody with the link where you can find it all later on. Okay. Right. I'll continue. We're on 12:23 and we're halfway through. That's good. I thought we could finish at 12:45 and then time for questions. So we're on target.
Becky, there's just one more question if you want to take that just now. Sue has said that she's recently got hold of the free resources from the Church Support Hub, which are all very useful. I'm not sure which Church Support Hub that is. Is that ecclesiastical or?
I wonder if it's the Learning Hub. Is it? If it's the Learning Hub, Sue, I agree with you.
Church Print Hub. Church Print Hub. So that'll be the Church of England one, won't it? Yeah.
Fabulous resources on the Church Print Hub. I should tell everybody actually that many of the resources that are related to giving are absolutely free. I mean, I can't say how they've paid for it. I think it's probably part of the giving strategy that they're encouraging people to use the giving resources in the best way they can in order to be able to generate income. So do have a look at the Church Print Hub and see whether there's anything there. One of the great things about the Church Print Hub is you can personalize everything. The software there enables you to put your own church name on, and you can order your prints and they arrive. I don't even think you pay postage. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure. Definitely worth it. Thank you, Sue. Okay, number 6, then we'll move on. Joining the parish giving scheme. Okay, we've talked for 2 years about the parish giving scheme, and now we've proved what we already knew. I think it is working. We've seen gifts increase through the parish giving scheme. We have over 1,500 givers now in the scheme, and their average gift is £16.60. Compared to £11.65 for people who are not in the scheme, and that's per week per giver. We visited a church this week who have seen average gifts £7 a week higher through the parish giving scheme than through other forms of giving. It's incredible. We don't know why people are giving more through the scheme, probably because it's an intentional way to give, and it asks people to very carefully reflect on what they're giving and their own journey of generosity. But it is working, and we're seeing parishes report increased income as a result. The other thing, of course, is it's reduced administration burden for church volunteers. It's easy and simple to run. The safest way to give being a direct debit scheme, so nobody has to run to the bank with cash. Coming soon is the means to collect one-off gifts through the parish giving scheme, so you don't have to commit to an annual or a monthly gift. And also, as well, part of the package is that you get a free giving page on the internet. So your church, whether it's registered or not, is already on the parish giving scheme website. You go to locate my church, you can put your postcode in and you find it. If you're not part of the parish giving scheme, it will say your church has yet to register. But if you are part of the parish giving scheme, you can edit all the information on there and tell people about the good work that you're doing, reflecting back on telling your stories of need and impact. So do think about the parish giving scheme, even if at the moment you feel that you may not get that many givers going through the scheme. Join anyway, you get your free giving page. It costs nothing. Here's a film. You may have seen it before, very quick.
My name is Nicholas Mercer and I'm the rector of Bolton Priory, and I'm just going to speak to you briefly about the parish giving scheme. Bolton Priory signed up for the parish giving scheme at the beginning of this year, and we've been very pleased indeed with how the scheme has been going. We introduced it in January, but we got cut short by the lockdown in March. However, we saw this as an opportunity to push the parish giving scheme further, because no one now was coming to church at all and we needed a source of income. So I wrote to every single parishioner, enclosing a parish giving scheme leaflet, and asked them to join the scheme. And the response has been superb, with just about half of the congregation signing up. The facts really are very simple. In these uncertain times, we need to have the certainty of a regular income, and people really bought into that line of reasoning. The parish giving scheme itself is very straightforward. You simply fill out a leaflet, you agree how much you want to give per month or 6 monthly or whatever period of time you decide upon, and then that's that. You submit it and the sum is taken from you. From the church's perspective, it's very clean and simple too. We get paid at the beginning of each month, and then 10 days later we get the recovered tax back. It is clean, simple, and it provides certainty in these uncertain times. So I could not recommend it more emphatically, and I'm going to work on the few parishioners who are still to sign up, and I hope that you will join the scheme too. Thank you.
Becky, we've just had a question about the parish giving scheme that you might want to answer now.
Sure.
So does the PGS allow giving of variable amounts?
You want to answer that one, Janet?
I can do, yeah. The parish giving scheme, you do give by direct debit, and so it is a planned giving scheme, but you have complete control over your giving. So if you want to reduce the amount that you're giving because your finances have changed, then you can do that either by contacting the PGS team directly, by telephone or by email, or you can actually go onto your giving account. You have your own giving account on the PGS website that you can log into with your own credentials, and you can alter the amount that you're giving. So you have that control, complete control over your giving. Hopefully that's answered the question. It was from Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah, and of course, Nicholas Mercer, who was on screen there, didn't mention that you can join online as well as by filling out a leaflet. That's been a new development from the parish giving scheme last year. So digital giving, we're on to number 7. We're rattling through now. Digital giving. Now, I sense that people are just holding back a little bit for going for a digital contactless device, and that's probably a good thing, because actually we're not getting that many people in church, although things are starting to happen again now. So I can wholeheartedly recommend that you look into what it is that you could use to attract donations from people who are just visiting the church. You won't want to replace your standing order givers or your direct debit givers into giving this way, but we all have those situations when we open the church to visitors and they don't bring cash. People are carrying less and less cash around. So the choice is quite wide. I can wholeheartedly recommend that you go to Parish Buying to find your device. The support and advice that they give is brilliant. They've actually tendered to digital device manufacturers and providers, and they've found the best choices for our churches. So here's just a few on the screen. Actually, what also we do know that taking gifts from a digital device can increase the size of the gift, and it's been proven in research done by the wider charity sector that if people are giving a cash gift, they would generally give on average £3.80, but through a contactless machine, I suspect you're not seeing the cash flutter out of your fingers, are you? The average gift is £11.39. So you can attract higher gifts by having the right mechanism. It even goes higher to suggest that if you are attracting gifts online through online giving, i.e. on your website, then gifts can be as high as £41.70. So that's the average, £41.76. So digital giving, contactless device, and exploring how you can offer digital giving through your website. There's more about that, I believe, coming up in the next 2 slides about donate now buttons on your website. But first, sorry, I'll get onto the slide projection. One of the things that the screen does, which is highly irritating, is it shows little thumbnails of you people, and that's not irritating itself, but it hides the buttons I need to press in order to get to the next slide. So there we go. We've got there. Grants, okay. This should say number 8, I believe. Grants. So before you embark on any activities, whether it's missional, whether it's related to improving the building or even building repairs, worth having a look around, see whether somebody will fund it for you. Now, the diocesan team, Janet and I, can help you find where you might look for a pot of money. We've got a booklet that we send out to churches called Charitable Grants for Churches. The link is on the 4th bullet point down there. And we also have an online grant search tool that we're investing more in over the year, where you can put the details of what it is you're doing, and it will come up with some suggested funders who will help you pay for your work. There's always more money around for supporting people who are isolated, who are marginalised, or who or children's activities or anything related to health. It's just one of the things funders like to pay for. There's less money around to help you pay for your church guttering. That's not to say that it's not impossible to find that sort of money. We can certainly have a good look for you. And if you write a strong enough case, who knows, you could be top of the funders list. It's also useful to approach us to see whether your work comes under the diocesan funding scheme. We are giving money away to church buildings work. And there's also some money that local councils hold on to fund community activities. So the council or a community foundation near you could come up with something, only small amounts of money, but it could end up funding an entire project that you won't have to fund from PCC funds. Donate now buttons. So this is a snapshot of Panel St Robert's in Knaresborough. They have put a donate now button on their church near you page. Now, the mechanism behind this can seem slightly complicated, but Janet and I are here to hold your hand. Basically, the banking mechanism that sits behind the Give Now button on a church near you is called Sum Up or Give a Little. I think that's Sum Up / Give a Little, depending on how you use it. Sum Up operates by taking the money and making sure it lands in your bank account. And basically what it is you need to set up an account through Parish Buying, and you can then have a link that you can put on your Church Near You page, on your web page. You can put it on social media. You can even print it in your newsletter. And of course, with the wonders of modern technology, you can transfer it into a QR code that people can scan on the go. They don't even need to have to memorize the web page. Of course, sitting behind this button could also be your parish giving scheme page too, if you don't have Sum Up or Give a Little. It's very easy. The resources section of a church near you has everything you need to put all this in place. So I suggest go and find it, go and use it. People will want to give. When they hear the good news of what it is you're doing, they will want to give. One of the travesties would be not enabling them to give. People don't tend to put cash in an envelope and walk down to the church with it anymore. Number 9, Green Journey. So we are obviously as a diocese very concerned with how we look at our environmental credentials, and we're really keen to promote Green Journey as a provider of green energy to churches. But not only that, Janet and I love the fact that it can save you money. And that's what we're all about, isn't it? Saving money where we can. So they offer a VAT checking service. If you've been paying too much VAT on your previous contracts, they will claim it back to you. They also offer a complimentary energy survey, which enables you to look at where it is you're leaking energy, and they'll put cost saving suggestions in that for you, so you can start making changes, save money. If you want to switch to buying their energy, they deal with all the account management. They do a water supply switching service, and they also install smart meters. So they're a fully comprehensive green energy supplier to churches. And I know a lot of churches are already on board with this. We have a little bit of work to do to make sure we can get as many people as possible onto this and saving money. Now, there is a film that accompanies this, but I won't show it. It's 3 minutes long, but it is available for you to watch from the slides when you get this slide deck. And finally, but never least, because it's very important, we're asking people to seriously consider doing a giving review. Now, what does a giving review look like? Well, it can be simple or it can be more involved. It's entirely up to you to fit your church context. So this is a simple version shown on this slide here. It's the giving review check sheet. Basically, it does what it says on the tin. It checks what your giving is like. It's a chance for you to measure and monitor where your church is on the journey of generosity. I won't go through all the questions on it, but you can get a little snapshot by looking at that picture there on the slide of what it involves. It asks you to think about when you last heard a sermon on stewardship, on generosity and giving and money, how your church communicates with givers. And here's part 2 of it. What does your giving orientated church look like? Do you have a display in church where you articulate the vision? Do you tell people where they can go to give gifts? Are there many different ways to give gifts? Because we know givers give in different ways. And then what does your social media look like? What are your services like? Do you have services that talk about giving? Do you regularly revisit the topic? The checklist asks you to sort of grade yourself on how well you're doing. And of course, you can revisit the checklist further on down the line when you started to put plans into action and measure your own progress. It just asks you to really focus in on the things you do well and the things you need to work on. Now, that was the simple way of doing a giving review. The other way of doing a giving review, which is also simple because Janet and I do the hard work, is having Janet and I come to you and talk to your PCC about how the ways you can grow your generous culture and you can grow a generous environment. This film, I think, articulates what it is that gets covered in our talks. It gives you an idea of the sorts of things you can expect if you see one of us talking to your PCC. I will talk no more, the film does the talking.
Generosity is at the heart of our faith. And the generosity we show is testament to a lived out faith and our generous God. The God that so loved the world, he gave his only Son. The ministry and mission of the Church of England is largely funded through the incredible generosity of those who give to it. In order to cultivate this generosity within our church, we need both the right environment and the right culture. There are simple steps we can take to encourage generosity. The most important is the first, to pray that God may give us the spiritual gift of generosity so that we increasingly reflect the generosity of God in our ministry and mission. Because, as the Bible tells us, generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. We need to create an environment that encourages people to give, and to do this we need to get 4 things in place. And we use the acronym MINT for these. Mechanisms are the tools that allow giving to take place, such as direct debit, contactless payment, online, legacies, gift aid, and so on. The impact of people's giving needs to be explained, how it enables the church's ministry and mission. The need for people to give must be shown, so they can see where their help is needed and how important it is that they give. And trust must be built, so that people have confidence that the church will spend their gifts wisely and well. If you have these 4 elements in place, then you have created the best environment for people to give. We also need to cultivate a generous culture, where we grow in an understanding of God's generosity towards us and share that generosity through our ministry and mission. To grow a generous culture, there are 4 areas to focus on, and we use the acronym IDEA for these. Inspire people through generous leadership and by celebrating generosity within the life of the church. Disciple members through resources, teaching and learning, so people can grow in an understanding of God's generosity towards them and how they can live generous lives. Embed generosity in the life of the church, in its plans, services and ministry, and weave it into everything it does. Activate generosity by providing opportunities for people to grow in generosity and apply what they have discovered. But you aren't alone in this. The National Giving Team is here to support you as you build your generous church. On our website, you will find a wide variety of resources, guidance and inspiration for encouraging giving to your church and for growing generosity within it. Thank you, and God bless you for everything you give to the church's ministry and mission.
So if you decide to ask Janet or I to come and visit your PCC, it's a really joyous and uplifting meeting. It's an opportunity for us to share ideas and to discuss ways that we can start to flourish and grow again as we start to re-emerge from difficult times. And all of the elements that are in that film are discussed and explored in your context. We've had really good feedback about these giving reviews. The material is provided for us by the National Giving Team, so it's sort of standardized across the country. It's what most dioceses are using now. But the other thing as well is it focuses on abundance. It focuses on gifts, generosity and joy, and we don't focus at all on scarcity and what has gone before. It's real progress. It's looking forwards to how we can develop that culture and put plans in place to enable it to grow. Right, see if I can move the next slide on. There we go. Oh, we're on the last slide. Good, we got to 10. And so these are our contact details if you need any more information on anything you've seen. And I've said the link for this, for where I'm going to store the presentation, will be emailed out to you tomorrow when we've had a chance to upload the film, recording of the webinar onto the website. I'm going to stop sharing and ask if there are any questions.